You are listening to the podcast To Be Single or Not to Be by Shanna Montana, a podcast where we talk about the single life, dating, and relationships so you can make a decision at the end of each episode and decide to be single or not to be. That is the final question.
This is the To Be Single or Not to Be podcast, and we're doing what? Running it back.
Hi guys, and welcome back to the To Be Single or Not to Be podcast with the new Running It Back series. So today we are talking about timelines in dating and relationships and why you may need them. And we talked about this way back when in 2019, but this was in season 1, but even going into season 2, I had an idea about timelines that eventually changed, I believe, when we got to season 3, where I was like, I don't really know if the whole timeline deal is needed. But what we're going to do today is we're just going to go back to our original recording of this episode, which it was episode 17 out of 111 that we have of the show. And we're going to talk about what the perspective was and what the perspective is now, because I can tell you, I do not believe in timelines the same way. I feel that it's not about having a specific timeline, but being very specific with your time and how you use it. So I no longer am of the thought process that, by month 3, this should happen. By month 6, this should happen. By month 9, this should happen. Now, I am of the fan of saying that if you have a desire to be married, that you should not be boyfriend, girlfriend for 10 years. I don't think it takes 10 years for someone to decide if they want to marry you or not. But on the other side of that, I would say in the earlier stages, in the earlier years, I am not of that notion anymore that you have to be a stickler for, these very specific timelines and how you navigate those, because it's like, what are we doing with the time that we are given, and how is that energy being reciprocated? So, present day, you'll meet someone, and the question is always, if I meet someone, regardless of how online, in person, whatever, how long should it be before we go on a first date? How long should it be before we meet the family? How long should it be before we move in? How long is going to depend on what your goals are within that dating situation and what you move into with that relationship. But more importantly, it's going to be, during the time that you are spending with one another, is that time intentional? Is that time meaningful? Is that time being used in a way where you are pushing towards the future and you have the same vision for your relationship life? So it's not really about saying, it's been 3 months, I need to meet your mom. No, what have we done in this 3 months that has put me in a space where, or what have we done with the time that we have, that we have spent together, that has put me in a space where I now, just the energy and how comfortable I am and how I'm navigating this relationship says, I would like to meet your parents. I feel like, I know enough about you. I know enough about your life. I've gotten to know you. And I would like to get to know you on another level by getting to know your family. So it's not at all about just saying like, it's been X amount of time and this needs to happen. No, how intentional and how meaningful have we been with the time that we are spending in order to understand that we want things to have a natural flow and a natural progression. And I think that when you're able to navigate things that way, you are going to find more success anyway. Now, the other thing is that people look at timelines and get hung up on it, because you all know this age-old conversation that people say, people of the Caucasian race go to college, the women go to college, and they are there looking for a husband. And so you sometimes see this debate on social media about, maybe that's what we should be doing. We should go to college looking for a husband. Had we looked for a husband there, maybe we would have the ball players, NFL, NBA, whatever the case may be. And I differ from that. I'm okay with the fact that our parents don't send us to college to look for a husband. And I'll tell you why. The reason that I'm okay with that is because in college, one, our frontal lobes are not developed until we're 26, allegedly. And I feel that when we are in college, we are there, one, to get an education, but also to really just experience life and to see, what the world has to offer us. You're there to figure out, what is life about outside of your hometown. You get to know new people, you get to go to different events, you get to try new cultural things. I attended an HBCU, so I had an entirely different experience coming from small town USA in Mississippi, going to Nashville, Tennessee, going to the greatest HBCU on this side of heaven, the Tennessee State University. So being able to attend college in that way, I was able to see a lot of things and understand that I wouldn't have had my college experience any other way. I was able to date some people, had situationships. I was smart enough. I never wanted to be in any relationships when I was in college. Made amazing friends that are some of my best friends present day. And I was able to, I graduated with my degree. I didn't necessarily go down that pathway with that degree, but I got other degrees that I'm able to, I utilize them all now. So I had a great experience that was outside of me looking for a man. What Rihanna said, I beg your pardon, I'm not looking for a man. But I feel like had I been in college looking for a man, my experience would have been totally different in a negative way, because I'll tell you this, I know people that were booed up the entire time that they were in college. Most times those relationships did not work by the time they left, but those were people that were always with their nigga, was never out able to have any fun for real unless they man was around. Or the thing was, when they man, in college, you kind of a little bit crazy. They get into it, they going through a hard time, like the whole world gotta stop. Can't go to class, can't eat, can't think, can't sleep, can't doing all kinds of crazy stuff. I got plenty of crazy stories of friends I had in college that were in relationships while they were in college and was doing some shit that they should have been on the docket for. But thank God they were covered in the grace of God and the prayers of their mother and ancestors that they were not put on the docket. So no, like going to college and being on a hunt, like if you happen to have went to college and found the love of your life and you all got married and lived happily ever after, or just live happily ever after, good for you. I would love to know the statistics of that. But for most people in our culture, that's not what we went to school for. And I'm okay, because we did not need to operate according to that timeline that society says, like go to college, 22, 23, find a man and go and live unhappily ever after for the rest of your life. Because you can't tell me all those women, Susie, Katie, Karen, whoever, that they all living happily ever after. It's like we tend to stop at that part of the story. We tend to say, oh, they went to college, found a husband, say it is a rich husband, I don't know, but they all living happily ever after. Who said that? Like, how do we know that? We have no proof of that. I know all of them aren't, but who's to say all of them are? So that's one cultural timeline that I'm just not okay with. And I think that as we move forward, we have to wonder when it comes to timelines, timelines are going to look different, and it's like relationship goals. That's a part of it. A timeline could be a part of a relationship goal. Like people, I think the biggest part is that we have to know that when it comes to timelines, I think a lot of that is definitely attached to saying that we have to do certain things in our life by a certain time in our life. You all know, growing up, it was like you go to college, you should be married, say before 30. You have the kids. So you married by 28. You got the kids by 30. You got the dog by 32. You got, you retired by 65, I guess. I don't know. But it's like the timelines that people tend to put on life is because we are trying to rush the universe along. We are trying to rush life along. We are trying to push things according to our agenda, when in reality, we know that we are not in control of anything anyway. So I'm no longer of that notion I was way back then of thinking that, yes, you need to do certain things by certain times. Things should be happening this way. I'm of the notion that, you're going to look at the time being spent, use all of your time wisely, but certain things don't have to happen by a certain day. I am proudly 38 years old. And, by all accounts, Kevin Samuels would have ate my ass up. He would have said, R.I.P. He would have said, you 38, your stock going down, your chances for marriage are over with, you're not going to have no kids. Basically, he would have told me my life was over with. But I know my life is far from over with. Like, if anything, I'm just beginning. And I'll talk about that. So in the first episode, I said that I'm okay with being single right now. And I was like, I'll talk about it later. So I would say the reason that I say I'm okay with it right now is because I feel that all the relationships and situationships that I've had in my entire life leading up to now, more so my adult life, I'm going to count like in my 20s, like after college, that if I had made a decision to say I'm going to marry or be in a committed long-term relationship with any of those people that I had been in relationship with before. That would have been probably the worst decisions of my life, because those relationships were subpar. Those people were not up to the standard of my life. And I know me, I would have just went along to get along. I would have said, well, I'm here. I've been here all this time. I'ma just stay. I would have had the kids. I'd have been one of those women you meet. It's like, oh, I hate that nigga. I'm just here for the kids. I don't want to be nowhere just for the kids. Because that's another thing. Kids know when you sad. And when you sad, you affecting the kids. And the kids grow up with that shit on them. You might can't see it then, but it shows up 20 years later. And it's just a toxic, never-ending cycle. So I feel like I am grateful that I made a decision that with the situations that I was in, to not have any type of long-term commitment or marriage to those then, because it would have been very unhealthy and unhappy. And because I know I'm not a quitter, and I didn't have the tools and resources, I didn't have the toolkit that I have now, or the wherewithal, I would have just stayed in that shit. And I probably would have been encouraged to the point that by the time, right now, I would have, been so miserable that it would not have been a life worth living. I know that my life now would have looked nothing like it looked then. And I understand that in relationships, people can learn and grow and thrive together if they so choose to. But I know that in those situations, I was not in relationship with anyone that would have chose and had a desire to learn, grow, and thrive to become better than we were then. Like the same people that we would have been at 27, 28 would have been the same people that we are now at 38, because I know I would have just allowed myself to become stagnant and just go along to get along with those people. And so now I realize also the other part of that is what I now know about relationships, what I understand, what my self-worth and self-value looks like now that I really hold firm to my non-negotiables and boundaries. Now that I really know how to show up authentically as myself, I'm so authentically free. There's not a motherfucker on this earth that can make me do something I do not want to do. And I mean that with all my heart, soul, and being. I've said it before. If I ain't never gonna say it again. This is who I am. And this is what I'm going to be. And now that I'm truly and honestly in this space, and it is a firm, hard stop that I am here, I now know what it looks like and what it feels like to have a happy and healthy relationship and a successful relationship when that person comes along. And so I can create the life that I truly desire. Whereas before, it would have just been a whole go along to get along situation. And I don't want no parts of that. So that's why I say I'm cool with being single right now. I'm fine. It's cool. These streets. It's summer. The summer 23. We outside, baby. If you see me, buy me a drink, bitch. So that said, the next thing is we talked about dating and timelines, things like this, like getting to know people. I said, y'all, back then we were talking about when you're getting to know someone, should you be okay with like texting or talking the most? And then I also gave a scenario where a stranger approached me and he wanted to talk to me before going out to meet with me face to face. And I was so unhinged back then because I really was of the notion like, nah, nigga, you don't need to talk to me to meet up with me. Why would I want to meet up with a stranger? Like somebody I ain't never talked to? Like now I definitely got to talk to you. So that was a wild and crazy kid back then, So it's like now I understand, it could be a mix. We are texters. You could be a mix of talking and texting, but the beautiful thing is FaceTime or whatever app you use, Google Meet. But also just knowing that with the timelines that, yeah, I need to see your face. I had to make sure you got all your teeth in your mouth before we meet. No side teeth missing. That's a boundary, sprinkle, sprinkle. But, you also got to make sure people, this goes into the time when you get to know a person, make sure you find out things they care about. Do they care about their not just their mental health, their physical health? When the last time they been to the doctor? When the last time they been to the dentist? Do they floss? Y'all, no lie. One of my friends told me that she met a guy that said he did not believe in flossing. And she asked him why. And he was just like, he don't believe in it. Almost like it's a religion. I'm going to text her and find out, like, what was it? Why exactly? I know I asked her because I'm a why type bitch. I stay asking, like, why? And people are like, Shayna, I didn't think that far. Why? He literally was just like, it ain't something he do. So stuff like that, the timeline. During the timeline, get to know the person that you're dealing with, because if they don't like the flaws, they don't like to go to the dentist, they don't go to the doctor, these probably type of people that don't like to pay car insurance. You know, if you meet somebody got a big ass crack in their windshield, like I met a nigga that had a big ass crack in an old ass SUV. I ain't gonna say what kind, because y'all might identify him. One of y'all favorites around here. Oh my God, like, you riding around in these fake ass clothes. Like, you riding around in this old ass car with this big ass crack in your windshield. You probably do not have insurance. I done seen you pull up and get gas and only put $20. Why you don't never fill up your tank? Like, y'all gotta pay attention to stuff like that. Then you gotta pay attention to, like, it was a person that I know, like, I work from home. And I know a person that works from home. And more than once, he said to me, like, you ever just been working from home and just realize, like, you done went by all day and, like, a day done went by, you ain't washed your ass? No. 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 That's never happened. One, I work out, so when I get home from the gym, I gotta take a shower, because I don't be in the gym for the gram. I be in the gym for real. And two, no. Like, I feel like every time I take a shower, I get out and I'm like, whoo, I don't understand how people don't wash their ass, because it feels so good. Like, no, it's probably one of them people that feel like they didn't need a floss. So while we talking about timelines, you need to make sure your timeline is one where you are finding out what this person, how they take care of themselves. That's very important. Very. Do they have health insurance? Do they even have it? Whoo, child. So I'm just gonna move right along. So the thing is, what I will say remains the same that we talked about when it comes to the timelines in the relationships. I'll say, you know, if you are a no limit soldier and this don't apply to you and you got the emotional strength of a werewolf, go ahead. But no fucking in the getting to know you stage. Like, get to know the nigga, not the dick. And a lot of times y'all be ready to jump out the window. I tell y'all in that other episode, for the D, girl, fuck you. Like, that's not it. So yeah, get to know the person. If you get to know him, it'll make the D even better. But you just jumping out the window doing something. Why? Because you got drunk. I told y'all, for the first 5 dates, do your best, girlies, to not drink. It will allow you to clearly see that nigga hairline is pushed back. It will allow you to clearly see the plaque on their teeth. It will allow you to clearly hear when they told you that they do not have car insurance. It will allow you to clearly hear that they are going to ask you for the tip on the first date. True story. So you have to, that's one thing I'm going to stand by on the timeline. Like, don't jump out the window too fast. Not too much now, what the kids say. Now, mind you, I know about 2 people in my life that do have the emotional wherewithal to deal with and date men and can fuck them and never think twice about it. But that ain't a lot of women. A lot of women think they got the power that it don't. And you think that having sex is going to change his mind and make him want to be in a relationship with you. And it may make him spend more time with you, but it's typically not going to make him, you know, want to be in a relationship with you. So I would say just, you know, be mindful. Be mindful and be more mindful. And then the last thing was, I had this really hard timeline on this episode where I was like, you know, if somebody wants to get to know me, it's going to take them 6 to 9 months. And I'm like, girl, what, was you smoking dick back then? Where did you get those numbers from? Like, where did you get that from? So I'll say now to anybody under the sound of my voice, I do not have a timeline as to how long it's going to take for a person to get to know me. It's all about, again, I'm not going to give a specific time on anything. It's just about using the time wisely and applying it accordingly. So we're going to take the time that we have. We're going to apply it to getting to know one another in a beautiful way. And if it's supposed to be something, it'll be something. If it's not supposed to be something, then it won't be something. But no, I think I probably was in a hurt space. Because I just was like, yeah, it's going to take 6 to 9 months you getting to know me before you can, like, get close to me. I'm like, no, not so much, because, you know, I just think that as you go through the motions and you get to know people, you'll figure out what the energy says, what what the actions say, what the words say, and what the consistency says. So you'll go off of that. So I would say from back in 2019, we talked a lot about, you know, the timeline having to be XYZ. And I can say now in 2023, I absolutely disagree with that. And I want you to know that if you're going to give anybody your time, just make sure they're going to respect it and that they are going to use it wisely. So signing off, yours truly, Shanna Montana.